So the Chicago Bears are being linked to showing interest in just the perfect free agent fix for this offense. And here's the thing. We've got tons of talk of what to do with Keenan Allen. Can Tyler Scott fill the number three? Do we need a speed guy at number three? And a name's getting more and more run. He's going to be available, and that's Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Christian Kirk. And this is a guy that checks a ton of boxes. He's had success previously. Great hands, great speed. He ran a 4.4740 at his combine workout. And also, he's probably going to be cheap, so the Bears can spend resources on the trenches like originally desired. What's up? This is Sports Talk Bears. If you get a second, put in the comments who you think the wide receiver should be that the Bears bring it to this team in free agency. Just your can't miss, gotta have it guy. Get a little creative, get a little weird. We'll break it down in the comments. So moving away from all this offensive line talk as we get close to the combine, let's talk about who Kirk is. He's all the things that I have just previously listed. Looking at the Jags salary cap spot, it's not good. They've got about 30 million there, but they have a lot of holes to fill. And Brian Thomas Jr., he just broke out as a stud. And the writing was kind of on the wall last year with Christian Kirk. Why? They had an agreement in place to trade him to the Steelers, and he immediately broke his collarbone, absolutely torpedoed the deal, obviously. And kind of looking at this article on Bears Wire, the Chicago Bears, they've been showing interest in Christian Kirk all the way back to 2022. So this is not a new relationship. This isn't a new interest. And I actually think the Steelers are going to go after him too. But faced with that situation, the Bears, they have the cash at $80 million before more cuts are done. They might even end up with $100 million in cap space. If they want him, they can outbid the Steelers without really hurting the salary cap. And kind of looking at where he came from, his time started out absolutely great in Jacksonville. He had a breakout season in 2021. And then the Jags signed him away from Arizona to what was really an absolutely stunning deal at the time. He signed a 4-year, $72 million contract, which was a huge contract back then. And it looked kind of like a desperate move from a front office that just wanted to get solid receivers alongside Trevor Lawrence. They were looking to make a splash. So then they played him in an every down role and running the sixth most routes of any receiver in 2022. And he responded with 1,108 yards, 8 touchdowns. And this is also on a playoff team in Jacksonville. Then moving forward from there, since then, Kirk has 1,166 yards over the ensuing next 2 seasons. But then he had some injuries, including an injured collarbone last October that torpedoed the trade with Pittsburgh. And that's limited him to 20 games over that span. Man, I can't talk. His 2.1 yards per route over these last 2 seasons, just kind of above average. But he's also dropped 7 of his 130 targets and lost 2 fumbles during that time as well. I don't know how much grace we want to give him for that. But we're considering something. He took 3/4 of his snaps from the slot last season. He doesn't really have the size of lineup on the outside, and we don't need him to. He just really profiles as a really nice, moderate floor, low ceiling type of receiver that would fit really perfectly in the slot and also being affordable. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's become like kind of a cautionary tale for teams that just want to spend whatever they can to get competent players in their lineup, but teams that absolutely overspend just to get a splash signing on their team. And he was also back during his time with Arizona. This is a guy that was competing with Rondale Moore, had a career year, and then the Jags, they decided to just pay Kirk a market-altering deal, and you see what happened. One thing that's good about this, though, looking back to 2022, the guy showed that he can hold up with heavy volume, but it was also really he has $16.2 million in unguaranteed money upcoming in the final year of his contract this year, and that's really untenable given his recent impact with Jacksonville. One thing in his favor, coaches absolutely love him. Former Arizona coach Cliff Kingsbury, now the offensive coordinator in Washington, he's absolutely raved about Kirk during his career as one of my favorite players I've ever coached, one of my favorite players I've ever been around. And once again, the guy's shown that he can play a high volume of snaps. He excels in the slot role. It's also just a case of a guy being a fantastic number 2 or number 3. And then he just got miscast as a number 1 because the team was just desperate for wide receivers. This is a great spot in Chicago that he could land in. A nice thing as far as cost for us as well, because Jacksonville can't really afford to keep him on the irresponsible contract that he's on. It's going to balloon to a $24.1 million cap hit in 2024 and 2025. He just had it in 2024. It's going to mirror that this year. The Jags could release him instead, save about $10.5 million against the cap, eat some dead money. The guy just has a good amount of money coming to him from the Jags this year. They're going to cut him, take on the dead cap money once again, need the cap space. The good thing about this, he's going to already be receiving money from Jacksonville, kind of like Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh last year. He's not going to be looking for a huge payday for the team that he lands with. And if he lands with Chicago, it's kind of a win-win. He's an absolutely quality receiver. He's going to be paired with a really good quarterback, a fantastic offensive scheme. This might be actually the perfect situation for Kirk as well, that he can rebuild some of his value and then sign another big contract somewhere else. Looking at his career, 404 receptions, 5,176 yards, 29 touchdowns, and that's by averaging over his career 12.8 yards per catch in 93 NFL games. And also, good thing, once again, in a pinch, he's able to provide numbers. Once again, best statistical season of his career not too long ago in 2022, 84 catches, 1,108 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. So I don't want to paint this guy as a slouch. He can produce if absolutely forced into a more robust role. And then keep in mind, too, he also eclipsed a 750-yard plateau in 2023. And during the 2021 campaign with the Arizona Cardinals, he had that breakout season. So the guy's got a lot to offer. And I think actually the Bears have a lot to offer him. This could be a really win-win scenario for both him and the team. We could get a reliable target at number 3 without breaking the bank. You might be able to get him into town for as low as like 12, 13 million at most. I think that's a really good get. I think that's an economical price. And it's also a guy that you can sign to a 1-year prove it deal or even a 2-year deal to kind of be a bridge for the next guy that comes in. I also want to see this coaching staff get Tyler Scott some reps. He wasn't used hardly at all last year. He was getting some play when we had Justin Fields, showed a little bit of promise. He had some good like pop games. If you forget about that one game that he dropped a really important pass against the Detroit Lions, maybe that's still held against him. But at any rate, I'd like to see more of Tyler Scott in this offense as well, see what we have in him, because we did invest some draft capital in him. I believe it was a 4th rounder, and that was the 4th rounder that we got from the Philadelphia Eagles when we traded down to draft Darnell Wright. So that's not a zero-sum thing what we spent on him. So I would love to see Tyler Scott develop. You guys let me know who you would like to see as the new wide receiver on this team, even if it's a guy in the draft. Let me know. If I haven't done a profile on them already, I'd be more than happy to do so. So bear down, you guys. Thanks for making this channel so successful, and I appreciate each one of you. We'll talk soon.